Alright, everybody. Hope you're all well. Fucking. So, how are we doing, people? Hello, whoever's just joined. Hope you're well. What's everybody up to? Alright. So, what we're doing today, everybody. Welcome in. Everybody okay? Alright, okay. Hopefully someone's going to join soon. So I've got someone to talk to. A bit awkward, just being here on my own. So, come on, somebody. Oh, hello. Who we got in here? Welcome in, whoever's here. So, hi, Reluctant Gamer. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Keep it clean. Don't cancel apps. These are apps with the proper form. Yeah, make it count. What is it? Yeah. Don't cancel apps, make the apps count. Yeah, that's the one, isn't it? Oh, goodness. So, I want to talk a little bit about how the whole system is a complete scam. Like, I think someone put a thing on Facebook, whatever. It was the whole, basically, a thing of how people oftentimes they need a car just to get to work, and the thing is that the work they're doing is paying off the car. It's like this whole system is just it just says how it's a scam. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. I don't know. It's I mean, how much are people like? Because like to actually have a car, it's like not cheap, is it? I don't even drive because it's not even worth it for me. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Like, they're spending all this time at a job so they can pay off their car or whatever and their meals as well. Because another thing is when they go to work and then they finish their work and then it's like, oh, I'm just going to go and get a takeaway or something. They might just go and get or they'll just get a ready meal, which either way, it's not cheap, is it? Like some of these ready meals can be like £5 just for a shitty fucking thing that tastes like ass. You know, it's just it's ridiculous when you think about it. Like, because how much people spending every day just on, you know, to actually work. It's like, so basically they're blowing almost half of their paycheck on these things, and sometimes people are even, you know, going getting stuff at like, you know, on the dinner time, whatever. I guess it depends if, you know, if they've made like a packed lunch or something, then okay, that's usually pretty cheap depending on what they put in it. Which, you know, this is more if you do that. And let's say if you brew your own coffee, some people will just go to friggin' Costa Coffee and spend £7 on a little cup of coffee or whatever, you know. I don't know how much it costs, but it's probably not far off that. It's just like, you know, the whole thing is just a scam, and it's just there to make you consume and buy whatever shitty fucking products. It's a joke, it really, isn't it? It's a complete and utter joke. People could be spending £10-20 every day just on, you know, on, like I said, getting to work and then, you know, getting something to eat, maybe something like that. You know, they do, like, you know, put something towards like the, you know, like say, you know, they'll give you whatever 40 pence a mile, whatever, but that doesn't actually usually cover the traveling costs completely. So you still have to put something towards that even. But you've got things like, you've obviously got to, you know, buy a car, you've got to, you know, you've got to do all these things. You've got to, hello, S4 Zando, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. If you're new here, please subscribe. So, you know, they would, you know, do all this stuff to, like, you know, so they've got this car, but for what exactly? Maybe people just want to buy a car just to, like, impress people or something. I don't know. They think that by buying this car, it can impress people, but then they use the car to get to work, and then, I don't know. But, I mean, you could get, like, a cheap-ish car, like, but even then it's, you know, again, there's always going to be costs and stuff. It's always going to be. Now, for some people, they're lucky and they can just they have a job that's really just round the corner from where they live. That's ideal, because then you don't have to, like, you know, go out of your way to get there. You can just, you know, there's no cost to get there. You can just walk to it or ride your bike to it or something. But for some people, that just isn't possible. You know, if your work's like 20 miles away, who the hell's going to be, unless you're someone that's really serious about fitness and like, because I remember there was this school teacher, and I was in like Blackburn, and he came all the way from Rochdale to school to teach at school every day. I think he was like PE teacher or something. I actually no, I think he was can't remember what it teach. I might have, I don't know, but he was quite fit, I guess. So it was like, so he would travel like 20 odd miles to school every day on his bike, and then 20 odd miles back. So he must have been extremely fit to be doing all that. So, but it would probably take him like well over an hour to get there and back. I'm just like, who's going to do that? I guess maybe it was just his way of getting his fitness in. But I don't know. But not many people want to be doing that. You know, that they're done with, you know, their work, and then they just want to get home. They're not going to want to be fucking about doing that. But, you know, if your job's like, you know, let's say your work's 20 miles away, it might take you like, you know, half an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes to get to work. You know, I'm just in UK. So I'm just saying, like, you know, the tech, you know, like, it's like they don't want to be messing around, like, you know, like, so the you know, the drive there and back, and it takes a lot of time. You know, I mean, otherwise it's going to take a lot of time, I'm saying. But the point is that You know, for some people out there, you know, that they'll go get go get a coffee from Starbucks or Costa Coffee, and it costs them a fortune. And they don't think about, is this really like necessary? Do I really need to be doing this? Why can't I just brew my own and just take it? I mean, some people will do that. They just put it into a flask and it can stay warm for like a few hours. But yeah, it's a bit kind of ridiculous when people just like, sometimes they'll go and like get themselves like an £8 sandwich from Pret or something, you know, after like, you know, like say, you know, they've spent a whole bunch of money to get to work, and you know, to, you know, buy a car to be able to, you know, to work and all this shit, you know. How much do they end up actually left with once all of the, you know, necessary expenses have been took out? And then you know, you've got, if you're earning over a certain amount of money, then you've got to pay fucking tax and shit, you know. The whole system's a joke. It's like, it leaves people completely like with nothing, you know. So then people end up taking out a second job to be able to then afford to at least have a little bit of luxury, but then they have no time to even enjoy the luxury because they're spending their whole fucking time working, you know. Because it's like, you know, what is the minimum wage? It's like, okay, yeah, the minimum wage might be £12, but that's like, okay, well then you've got to take off taxes, you know, income tax, council tax, national insurance. These are all things that you've got to, you know, take off. And if you're driving, then you've got to, you know, take off those expenses. You know, you're like, you're looking at like taking off a few thousand off that. So when you're talking like how much you're actually making, it's like, it's completely kind of like irrelevant, because most of that money is going to be gone before you even see it. You know, before you even have anything, you know, any kind of like freedom of what to do with it. Then it's like, you know, on your necessary bills, like you got, you know, it's like, ugh. Most of these new cars on road or financed. Yeah, you know, that's the thing. It's like they're like spending whatever a month, like these Teslas, right? How much are they costing a month, right? You know, they're on like, what is it? They're spending like probably, I don't know how much it would be but it's going to be quite a lot. It's probably cost more than a friggin' mortgage in some cases a month. Now, yeah, the total cost won't, but like they'll take that out for like 5 years, and then they'll feel like they have to get a new car because they're afraid of not keeping up with the Joneses or something. So the system will try and keeps everyone, you know, try to keep up to date, and you know, you have to, you know, because they're bothered about falling behind with like registrations and things like that, and so they constantly stay in that debt. But pretty much, we're in a debt-based economy that's, you know, that traps people in debt, whether it's a, you know, like a car payment or something else that you've financed. You know, it's a complete joke. It's but it's like, if we just could let go of all of the material stuff and, you know, the need for all of that, then what are you even having to work for? Now, there are some cases where, okay, maybe you do need to drive or something. Maybe you know, it's like there is, of course, going to be people out there that, you know, they've got certain priorities. You know, they might have family that they need to check up on and things like that. But it's like most people, you know, it's like I think they're just kind of like, I don't know. They never really stop and think like, why is it that I even need all this stuff? Who am I trying to impress? Because if you don't actually need it, then you can just like just step back and like try and, you know, just like think about what it is you really want from life. Because if you're working all day so then you can, you know, pay off the car that you drive to work, and so you can, you know, buy food that you needed to buy because you're working that job, because then you don't really have much time to actually prepare your own food, because otherwise you'd have no time left over. Because that's the thing, if you're working long hours, especially if you have to like travel to and from work and things like that, you're going to end up with probably not a lot of time left over. A lot of jobs now where people are going, out of town sort of thing, right? They're going, beyond somewhere else. Like they're going several miles out to get to work every day, like my dad does. But he's like a Royal Mail driver, but it's, it pays all right. But the thing is, he ends up like working quite long hours. I mean, he gets paid decent wages, but it's like, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me, because he doesn't really get a whole lot of sleep. So that's either you're going to sacrifice sleep, or you're going to sacrifice time doing that shit, It's just, I just don't see it as really being worth it. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's doing him very good for his health and what have you. Like, he'd probably have a lot more energy, and just, he probably wouldn't be getting sick if he could just like, get a bit better sleep, maybe something, because it's not healthy to be doing that, to only be getting a few hours a night of sleep. So it's just, we've got to prioritize our health and our well-being, mental and physical. And if we don't do that, then it's going to catch up with us someday. And then you're going to end up with like, potentially, it's, so a lot of people go on about things such as, like how people who don't work are selfish and what have you, and that they're not contributing anything to society. But the problem is that the people who actually work are ones that are oftentimes contributing a lot of negative stuff. In fact, for example, like pollution. Now, I know I'm not really that big up on like the whole environmental thing, and I do think it's a bit exaggerated, but it's not necessarily good to be pumping out a bunch of pollution in the air. Like a lot of these, fumes and stuff, they're not good for the air. There's been worsening air quality and things like that, and every time you're driving, you are impacting on that, even if it's only small. But if everybody does it, then it's like, it's going to have a big impact. So if, say, like, a certain percentage of those people are not working, but then they actually were working, and they've actually be potentially contributing even more, because they don't have to drive to work or something, contributing more, to that problem. So that's the whole thing, is like, people can get like shamed for, not contributing to society. But I think we all contribute in some way, I guess. Like, we all have our way of contributing something to society, really. So I'd even argue that even just by, buying something from a business or something, I don't know. Let's say you go to the shop and then you buy something from them, then you are supporting them, then, aren't you? You are helping them with their, I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but yeah. But even if you're not, working, you are still, by just simply, going and being a consumer, I guess. Especially if you like go and help like the small businesses, you could argue that is doing something good. Then, if you're going to go down, and I guess people should maybe support small businesses more. But yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It's thing is, people want to shame others because it's like they're doing something that they've been kind of like conditioned that they think is, shameful or whatever. you know, it's the thing is that people are not really looking at the bigger picture of it all, and the fact that, you know, the biggest benefit scroungers are actually these billionaires like Elon Musk, for example, who are, you know, they're literally getting billions paid to them in, you know, benefits. Not to mention things like bankers who get bailed out whenever they fuck up. You know, that doesn't happen for like small businesses or anything like that. They just, you know, they have to, you know, file bankruptcy and just like, and just, you know, give up and just, they're not given any support, are they? But yeah, if you're a banker, fucking central bankers, and they're getting fucking bailed out, you know? They're getting, you know, look at, you know, when it was 2008 financial crash, you know, it just shows how unfair the whole thing is. Like, these people can fuck up, like, royally, astronomically, I would even say, and still get bailed out. And they get all kinds of, like, tax breaks and all sorts of bullshit, right? It's so wrong. But people just accept it. Oh, it's just the way it is. That's just the status quo, whatever. It's like, why are we accepting that? You know, it's, as a society, we should not be accepting things like that. People trying to, you know, put the blame on people claiming benefits and stuff. I might actually make a video on this. That we need to stop shaming people who are doing that, because I think a lot of people have been conditioned to do that. But we have to look at things from a different perspective of, you know, they individually are not really doing anything bad, I wouldn't say, in the big picture. They're just, you know, you could say, well, they're just exploiting the system for their own benefit. Just like how the government and whatever, all these big things, they do it themselves, you know, they're doing a whole bunch of corrupt things, you know? But yeah, I don't know. I just yeah, a lot is it. But the thing is, the reason they say, oh well, the reason that they do it, the reason that why it's not bad that some billionaire is doing it is because it's legal, and they'll also say, oh, it's because they're doing it to provide value for society. But I would argue that it's the opposite. Hi, Lucy, how you doing? A lot of these people are actually doing a negative for society. They're actually causing a lot of harm for society, I would argue, by being corrupt and just, you know. So, like, they try and kind of gaslight you and whatever, and saying that, oh, well, you're, you know, if say someone wants to just not work for this system, then they're just being, you know, kind of shamed for that. They're being told that oh, it's wrong if you're on benefits or welfare or whatever. Now, I'm not saying that people should do that or do it for the rest of their life. What I'm saying is that, you know, why are we putting our focus on that when there's people who are, you know, complete scroungers who are, like, say, bankers and whatever, who are getting millions bailed out to them or whatever. It's just not right that people are putting all their focus on the relatively small thing of, like, somebody who's just, you know, they're just getting enough for like survive or whatever. And yeah, some people do, you know, kind of take the piss, like, but it's like, you know, it's a relatively small thing, right? People are just exploiting the system for their own benefit. But it's a much smaller scale on an individual level with these people versus these crooks in, you know, high places. Why isn't the focus on them and the fact that they're, you know, it's not right. And yeah, like a lot of these people are, you know, contributing a lot of, you know, bad to the environment. They're, you know, putting out a lot of bad stuff, and yet they're the ones that are being, you know, sort of rewarded in this system. The system rewards crooks and shady people, people who have no conscience. It shouldn't have to be that way. Like, if I ever got into like ever some kind of influence, then we would sort this shit out, because, you know, it. But then again, you could say, well, it's too far gone. But it's like, we've got to do something. We as a society, we need to like take back control, and we need to show that we're not gonna just let the corporations and whatever and the government take over. You know, like Mr. Adem Games. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong, but I hope you're doing well. If you're new here, please subscribe. So just having a bit of a rant at the moment. So, you know, we shouldn't be like shaming those who don't want to take part in the system. And the thing is that the system gives you very little reason to even want to take part in it. You know, like these days, it's become a point where it's just people aren't really given much hope anymore. You know, I'm not. Oh, you already subscribed. Okay, fair enough. I just don't remember you, so yeah. So basically, you know, it's just all very, you know. Anyway, what was I saying? I don't know. But yeah, like I said, things need to change, and we can't just keep going on and saying, "Oh well, things are never going to change," because then they will never change. That's what we're all going to believe. If we all believe that we can create a change, then I think that we have a chance to make a positive change. It's the problem is you get the naysayers and the negative people out there that think that things always have to be this way, and that's what causes it to stay the same. We as a collective just believe that, you know, there is no hope. But the problem is that a lot of people, they don't have hope because they're, you know, because it's like they don't know if they'll ever be able to own a home. They're being told that they'll own nothing and be happy, but will they really be happy though? Just living paycheck to paycheck for the rest of their life. They end up having to just rent somewhere that's you know, that's owned by BlackRock or something or whatever. So it's understandable that people have gotten quite sort of you know, just fed up and just thinking, well, what's the point? You know, we're promised all this stuff. You know, people get kind of promised that, you know, if they work hard, then they will be rewarded for that. You know, you've already said, yeah, that, you know, that people are getting rewarded for, you know, hard work, but then it all feels like a scam when you're, you know, that when people are doing all these things, like it's like when people go to university, they end up just getting some, like, you know, kind of standard job, and then they end up being, you know, trapped in, you know, student debt for ages, you know, until they're like 50, whatever it is. So, and yeah, you know, it's not like a huge amount, but it ends up costing them probably about, if I remember, the amount was something like 9% of anything over some £1,000, whatever. So it's basically, some people might end up, you know, paying back like £100 a month, let's say, or more, to pay off their student debt. So it's like, and then they haven't even gotten any better job as a result of their degree. It depends on what they got as a degree, but they're all led to believe that that was their path to success. But it's not in a lot of cases, and they end up far worse off financially as a result. And maybe if they would have focused their energy and time on what, you know, while they were studying for university, they could have just put their time and energy into, you know, doing something else, you know, and building that up and be far better off financially, you know. otherwise they should have, you know, gone for an actual useful degree, like becoming a, you know, a teacher or becoming whatever, you know, a doctor, something where the degree is actually necessary. And there's even some cases where someone can be overqualified and they end up struggling to get just a regular job after that. So you have to know what you really want, I think, with that sort of stuff. But it's just, yeah, it's just all, yeah, the whole thing's a scam. It keeps you in debt to, like, you know, whether it's student debt, whether it's, you know, car finance, whether it's your home. You know, it's all a joke, isn't it, really? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I might have to restart this live, guys, because there's just not really anyone hardly coming in here. So I'll be back in a sec.